Great. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of My Favourite Lyrics. My name's George. I play music under the name Trev. And My Favourite Lyrics is a series of conversations with mates of mine, other musicians, producers, people I just really want to talk to about their favourite lyrics. It's so simple. It really is that simple. And I'm here today with one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Mr. Wesley Triffitt. Wes, how are you, mate?
I'm amazing. I'm so happy. I'm having a fantastic day.
We've had a good problem, haven't we? We've been like rearranging our screens to try and get out of the sunlight.
Yeah. Oh no, it was a bit of a mission to be honest. I ended up on the floor, trying to be all bohemian, but then that didn't work. I was a bit uncomfortable. And then I had my books in shot, which then felt too pretentious, so I had to move away from that. It was a whole thing, but we're here.
It's great. We've made it, man. It's a good problem to have. Like, it's nice that it's been sunny the last couple of days. But I was just saying we were just chatting as well about how many people in lockdown have like really thought about their Zoom shot. And so I was saying lots of people I spend my week with have got like managed to get it so that all their bookcases are like the most kind of dense, intellectual looking books are like right behind them. And
Yeah.
I've got a kitchen wall and you've got a door. So we're not trying too hard.
No,
Do you
exactly.
care?
Yeah, exactly.
We are who we are, man. Good. Well, for those of you who don't know, let me just sort of I'll do a bit of a cheesy introduction to you, Wes.
Okay.
For those who don't have any context, but Wes is a musician, a teacher, a thinker, a dreamer, a feeler, but he plays music at the moment under the name Pyx, Pyx, and you've just released an EP last year. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's the first EP I've ever put out. I've made it for years with George and loads of other people, but I'm kind of one of those, make music and it ends up just in the back end of some SoundCloud account, never to be seen again. But finally I put out an EP last year, and yeah, it's good. It's called Ode to the Sleepers. And funny enough, the lyrics I picked for today are all about dreams. And the way that dreams are described and how not just in the lyrics but also in the music, musicians, writers create this kind of dreamscape for listeners. So that's something I was kind of maybe tapping into there, but yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, we always have this argument where you made an album like, I'm trying to think what it would be, almost 10 years ago now, that has never seen the light of day. And I remember you spent, gosh, it must have been months and months recording this thing. And by the time you got to the end of it, you just didn't feel, talk a little bit about that, because the joke I always make is that like your worst song on that unreleased album would be like the best thing I've ever written. So I'm like, I'm constantly trying to persuade you to like, just like give me the rights to that album, and I'll just put it out as a Trev thing. But mate, what like talk a little bit about that, like, because it's I kind of feel like basically almost everything I've ever written I've put out.
Yeah.
Whereas you, I guess you have been writing songs for a really long time, and I remember even when you were doing that unreleased album, there were there was like a whiteboard with must have been 25, 26 songs that you were cutting down. But talk a little bit about that. Like, what? How do you make the decisions about what you release? Why did you not release that in the end? And
well, I think that decision process has changed. As time's gone on, I've had to sort of, I don't know. I think perfectionism can be a real killer of creativity, and I was probably subject to that. At that time, where unless something was absolutely perfect, I wouldn't release it. And like you said, I spent a year on that, trying to kind of get it to sound right. And by the time it was finished, I kind of just felt that I'd killed it a little bit in that pursuit of perfectionism. Me and my brother Sol's an animator. He does animation on old cell, so it takes forever to do his work. And if he's a perfectionist, he'd just never get it finished. So we've come up with this kind of accountability sort of promise where if something is like 70% done, it's done, and it needs to just be put out there, because otherwise you're going to fall prey to that, never-ending pursuit of something being perfect. And it's kind of sad when I look back on that album, because it's a very fond time. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day I will just release it for
I feel like we've hyped it up as this like really enigmatic, mysterious thing now. So for the whoever watches this, who knows? Maybe we'll like a bunch of people will be demanding for you to release it under some alias or something. But mate, I love that. I'm sure even people that are listening that are artists and musicians themselves, I love that little accountability thing with your brother. I just think that's so cool. Because one of the things also worth mentioning is that we've been friends for a long time. We've been playing music now for a really long time together. And all of the Trev stuff I've done, you've been involved with. And I think so. All 3 releases that we've recorded with Dan, who was on the last episode, you've like always been there. And it's always like we have a bit of a running joke, but it's a good tension, I think, in our friendship as well. Because I probably err towards the other side of the spectrum, which is we'll just rock up with a couple of 40% finished songs and we'll just see what happens. And you're probably more the other way. And I think we meet somewhere in the middle and, something happens. And I like that. I like that 70% thing though, because I think I've talked to you before that I never like the idea of not having the space for something to, I know it sounds cheesy, but like space for like something to happen in the moment, or to have like a weird idea in the studio and find like a bizarre amp or a weird little organ or something. And do you know what I mean? Like having the space if those things work. But no, it's good. It's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember the first Trev record, we rocked up with, 2 songs, if that, 2 half-finished songs. And you were like, yeah, I want to do an album, a full album. And we've got, 1 day, basically, to do the whole thing. And it's just a complete polar opposite. But I love it. There's something about that pressure cooker of time. I don't know, you come up with things you would have not thought. You make certain shortcuts that actually, overall are really interesting, and you can do things in a new way, and it's just got to be done. And I love that as well, equally, So
it's much kind of less stressful for me when you're there, because I know that something good will emerge. I think if I just went into that on my own, it might sort of go the other way. But I remember one of the best songs on that album, basically you had written like 80% of, and we had always talked about who was going to get there first to record it, and it just so happened that I had booked the time, so I managed to grab it first. And then there was the hilarious thing where I wanted to obviously put your name on it when Monk Days came out, and I think you went through about 8 different names at that point. So I've got on my computer saved still a Middleman, which is the name of the song we wrote together. I wrote about 5% of, but we wrote together. And I remember it being like Middleman feat Televangelism, Middleman feat We Are Dust, Middleman feat Things Just Repeat, Middleman feat, and I just remember having all of these names, and then you ended up like landing on picks sometime later.
I can't believe you've remembered those names. As you were saying, you had all these names, these 8 names. I'm thinking, I can't remember any. I can't remember maybe Televangelism, but you've remembered more of the past names than I have.
It was just I think it was just one of those like periods of time for you where you loved so many things, and you loved them all really intensely. I've had this as well, where you just like fall in love with an idea or a concept, but it's like basically like in 6 weeks, 6 week periods, and you're just like, it's the best thing ever, and then something else comes up.
Absolutely,
mate. So we're going to talk about lyrics in a minute. I love that you've come up with that theme of dreams as well. I think that's really fun. You're sort of setting the bar for future people. Come on, but talk to us a little bit about, so like, given that we've talked about names and projects and all the rest of it, like what space does like I guess I was gonna ask you, like, why do lyrics matter to you? That's quite broad, but I feel like one of the people you introduced me to at the beginning when we first sort of became friends was Taylor Goldsmith from Doors, and that's you know, it's great music, but it's really lyric heavy as well. I would describe those like kind of, they're probably one of the bands who I imagine put just as much, if not probably more, emphasis on the lyrics in their albums. I don't know their process, but like for you, like what is it like? Why do lyrics matter? How much time do you spend crafting lyrics yourself? Like in contrast to like the musical elements of a song. Like talk a little bit about that.
Did you froze for a second there? Did you say Doors? Were you talking about
Taylor Goldsmith? Yeah. That was the first album you gave me when we became friends, was North Hills by Doors, and I think it stayed in my car for like 2 years. I didn't give it back to you, but so talk a little bit about that. Like what's been why have lyrics mattered to you?
I asked because it's interesting with them, you know, Taylor Goldsmith's process, and I've spoken to him about this because I've met him on a couple of occasions, you know, at gigs and stuff when they were sort of a bit smaller in the UK. And he said he has this weird process of coming up with the name of a song first, which I always finds really interesting. And if you look at the title of the songs, you know, it really shows. Like, and I don't know. For me, with lyrics, it's like trying to capture some sort of feeling or some sort of moment. Not so much as like telling a story. I think with Doors, often it's quite like a storytelling type, you know, sort of style of writing. I just want to capture some kind of feeling that's really hard to describe, you know. And I think that's why I've gone with Dreams, because I think the best lyrics, and you know, in combination with the music, of course, they do that. They sort of capture this unnameable, really abstract, hard to describe feeling. And I've got this quote from Walter Pater, I think is how you say his name. He's an essayist. He says, "All art constantly aspires to the condition of music." And I really like that quote. All art constantly aspires to the condition of music, because you think of the way in which, you know, whether it's, you know, painting or anything, maybe you'd look back and you'd see paintings of houses, paintings of landscape, but gradually, you know, as things go on, all of a sudden you've just got explosions of color and abstract shapes. And I think music is like the extreme of that, and it's just capturing this feeling, this knowing, almost like a dream. You know, dreams, you can't describe or explain a dream really, or if you do, it doesn't feel quite right. You have to experience the dream, and I think music's like that, and the best lyrics tap into that as well. And they sort of lean into that. Although obviously music, as Dan said last week with you, music without lyrics, instrumental music, equally it does that just as well. But for me, my favorite lyrics are ones that sort of tap into that and lean into that. So,
well, it's that thing of I'm always struck by how that that dreamlike state and the general sense of I don't know, transcendence, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, like how linked they are. It's a similar, like I feel like in my own sense around those things, you know, the kind of whether it's the twilight zone of having had a dream or waking up in the middle of the night, and it all taps into that same sort of thing of like, you know, there's something. Yeah, I don't know how to say it except, you know, transcendent. There's something kind of that rings true about it. But I do want to. I'm going to push a little bit because I didn't push down on this. I didn't push down on this in the last episode, and I am fascinated by this because I feel like my journey with music was that, you know, I grew up and probably like yourself, like grew up with my dad's music taste, and that was amazing, and you know, rock and roll, all that kind of stuff, and then when as a teenager I played in bands and I got really into instrumental music, and I was saying. I think before we started recording last week, I was saying to Dan, like, you know, Explosion in the Sky and Sigur Rós and Unwed Sailor and Yindi Howder and all these, you know, basically most of the music I was listening to didn't have any lyrics at all. And then I think I then sort of fell in love again with just great lyrics, like music that just had amazing lyrics in. And, you know, Doors was a part of that, but there were other bands as well that, like Manchester Orchestra, I thought, you know, were part of that for me. And, you know, Me Without You, blah, 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 whatever. But I'm interested in that because I guess I would want to say, like, but is there something about the combination of music and lyrics? Like, what does it do differently to like listening to a Sigur Rós album? I mean, I know they kind of have lyrics, but you know, say Explosion in the Sky or instrumental music, like is it like, because I know you said there, they can both do the same thing, but like, can they? Do you think they can, or do you think there is something? I don't know. Is there something particular about music and lyrics? I don't know.
No, I understand. So when I said they both can, what I mean is music on its own can sort of it can translate that really hard to describe feeling. It can sort of tap into those emotions which sometimes words fail to do. But yeah, with lyrics, I mean, for me, Dan said it last week, it can kind of make or break a song. And I don't know, to me, like, a song is a song because it's got lyrics. And, lyrics, not always, obviously, but often sort of tied in to melody. And, a song only becomes a song when there's something to say, And I think maybe that's what music with lyrics do. Sorry, songs with lyrics do that songs without lyrics can't do, because something specific that you can say. Maybe sometimes things can be too abstract to a point where you're just saying nothing, but actually it's that combination of I'm trying to tap in something really transcendent here, something really mystical, but I'm giving you a way in, through the lyrics. I'm kind of opening the door. I'm inviting you into this. So I
like that. We can almost like, it helps us to find ourselves in it, like, rather than it being this completely, not there's anything wrong with that again, but like rather than being a completely mystical thing. Because the thing that to state the absolute obvious, the thing that lyrics, do for me is like they help me to, similar to what you said, they help me to like locate myself within that. So even if the lyrics are still super cryptic, it's like it's the human element. It's like there's something embodied about it, and it's kind of it might be still quite sort of dreamlike, indescribable, but like it's that human sense of like being invited into it and being like, I love that. And mate, I had no idea we were going to get this pretentious, but
I know. It didn't take long, did it, before we just the transcendental kind of tapping into the dream state.
just ask me about my bloody lyrics. Stop it. Okay, well, look, that leads us on nicely, lest I take us off course even more, into the lyrics that you selected. So you told us that they're on the theme of dreams, and like every episode, I think I ask people to just pick three particular songs, but three particular lyrics within those that you really like. So, mate, what is your first choice?
So my first choice comes from a band called Frontier Ruckus. They're a kind of lo-fi alternative country band that a lot of people wouldn't have heard of. But if you're into lyrics, this is the band to go and check out if you've not heard of them. They're lyrically intensive to just a degree I've never come across before. They did a double LP, I think maybe 5 years ago, and I can't remember how many words were in the album overall, but that was one of the sort of things that I was seeing in reviews or on Pitchfork or whatever. It was just sort of boasting like there's thousands and thousands of words, but like on an album to something. And I don't know how he remembers them live. It's really incredible to watch. I've seen them a couple of times. But yeah, the lead singer's name is Matthew Miller, and the song comes from the 2008 album, The Orion Songbook, which is their debut album. And it's the last track on that album. Interestingly, all the songs I've picked out are the final tracks on the albums. I don't
just
know
coincidentally?
Yeah, just coincidentally.
That's funny, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's something about the kind of feeling it, the taste it leaves in your mouth. Or whatever. But yeah, the song's called The Deep Yard Dream. And I've just picked out the last part. The first part of the song. It says this: most of my dreams are robberies. The family dies, the child flees, through backyards filled with enemies, fences fleshed by panicked knees, and freedom is the deep night there, the hurried flight emergencies. Hospital hell tragedies are finding me in countries so far from my home.
Wow.
Yeah, those are the lyrics.
Wow. And it's worth mentioning. I mean, I think this is fair. Like Frontier Ruckus musically, it's quite folksy, quite like upbeat, isn't it? Kind of similar to Bright Eyes. There's like these really intense lyrics, but it could be, you know, the tune can be quite.
The main sort of prominent instrument is the banjo, actually, interestingly. But they also use, oh God, I'm not sure what the instrument's called now, but it's where you use your hand to kind of create a.
Styrofoam?
It's something like that, yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, let's say it is. There's no one here to tell us it's not.
Yeah, but they use that. They also do this thing with the saw. I don't know where they bend the saw and kind of use it with like a bow.
Yeah.
So loads of kind of like wacky, interesting sounds, but yeah, quite plucky, quite uppity from time to time. But yeah, lyrically just really interesting. And for this one, you know, I just think it describes those dreams that stick with you as a kid so well. As the first thing that comes to me. Most of my dreams are robberies. The family dies and the child flees. And like, I don't know if you've had this, but I think it's a pretty common thing where you have a dream as a kid that like sticks with you forever.
Yeah.
And it's something to do with your family usually, you know, like some sort of family tragedy, maybe based in the home or whatever. But yeah, it just to me, it sort of captures that. Yeah, those sorts of dreams that stick. I had this dream when I was a kid where we had this lodger living with us, and he was a lovely guy, actually. His name was Paul. He had a massive beard, and I must have been like 7 years old or something. Yeah, and he was super tall. He was like 6'3" or something. Really cool dude. Big beard, and I just found him really scary, which is unfair because I know him now, you know, and he's lovely. But I had this dream where he tried to cook me in the oven. You know, it's that sort of like, you know, and it's classic, isn't it? Family are like, yeah, go for it. You know, it's fine. Everything's those sort of like really earnest, but also like very scary, you know, dreams that you have as a child. And to me, I don't know, it captures that in a really interesting way.
Did you have recurring dreams? Did you have like any recurring dreams when you were a kid?
Not a recurring dream that I can think. I've had a shark-related dream that's sort of also another one that's lodged in there.
Yeah,
causing me, you know, problems probably somehow. What about you?
No, I don't. Yeah, I dream really vividly now. Like I think I went through a period where I never remember my dreams, and now I always remember them. But as a kid, I had a recurring nightmare where basically, like, I think I had seen on TV them playing. It was either The Mummy or The Mummy Returns, like one of them. But in one of those films, there's a bit where like the sand sinks into the ground and it looks like a skull. Yeah. And I remember I had this dream as a kid where I must have just seen it in the front room playing. I don't know, my parents watching it or something, and I had this dream where I was falling through into this sand, into the skull, and then I was in this little dark room. And there was just a very creepy old lady in a rocking chair.
Oh,
in the corner of the room looking at me. Yeah, it's weird, man.
So
there you go.
There you go. Yeah,
that's going to be a whole other episode now. We can do a therapy session. You can counsel me. But no, I love that though, because it sounds, you know, one of the things you appreciate about that, which is probably worth mentioning as well with lyrics, is that sense of not being alone, sense of someone writing about an experience that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily normally talk about, but they just describe it in such a way that you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, you know, it's that sense of like, I don't know, in a really good way, that kind of togetherness when someone puts words to something that you felt for a really long time. But
absolutely,
anyway, so I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like that.
Mate, I love it. Go on then. Number two. What's your second choice?
Number two, I've gone for Carry On by Willy Mason. This is from his third album, and I love Willy Mason. You know, he's sort of involved in that Conor Oberst, Phoebe Bridgers scene, which I know you talked about Phoebe Bridgers last week with Dan. He released his first album when he was like 19. You know, his third album by the time he was 28, and I just think he's an amazing kind of, you know, modern Bob Dylan figure for me. But yeah, he has this song Carry On, and it's like a different kind of dreams, you know, the dreams that we have for our future, and the things that we pursue, and the things that kind of, you know, consume us and drive us. So kind of switching gears, different kind of dreams, but related. And the song says this: I've chased dreams that end in pain. I've chased the sun, I've chased the rain, but nothing ever seems to fill my cup. I see angels circling now. I feel the moon behind the clouds. That's the kind of fire that I'd be proud to carry on. So,
wow.
Yeah, and he's describing an old man who's sort of at this bar or whatever, and he's talking about, you know, the dreams that he's had for his life and his kind of pursuit of those things. And, you know, he's sort of being consumed by it, I suppose, and is sort of, you know, sat there and feeling like he's sort of gone nowhere. And he begins in the song by describing a moth in a room that's drawn to this fire. And he says, you know, looking, what does it say here? I've got it written down. Following the brightest promise in his eyes, you know, and it's like, you know, the things, I just think we're surrounded by stuff now, aren't we, that is sort of fighting for our attention and for our pursuit, if you want to call it that. I don't know, but does it get us anywhere? Is that sort of question?
Totally. There's always something about that kind of not just in music, but again, sorry, not to keep talking about them, but I know Doors take the kind of the picture of the old person, man or woman, looking back on their life. That there's often a kind of I don't know what the word is, a kind of thing that they use a lot. But I always have a soft spot for that in like, I just have such a soft spot for it in films as well. Kind of the person that's come to, you know, all the wisdom and experience or whatever. And is kind of,
it's like there's an older man who stands at a buffet line.
Yes.
He is smiling as he's holding out his plate. And the further he looks back into his timeline,
that hard road always led him to today.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes. There's such a place in my heart for that. There's something so much about the kind of, you know, someone scrutinizing their own experience, the kind of torturedness of like things that they didn't think they got quite right. And anyway, but I love that, man. So I like that, what you were saying as well about just that kind of, things grappling for our attention as well, and how easy it is to, you know, I was actually talking about this to Dan on the last episode, because he one of his choices was Mistake of the Strangers by The National, which is obviously, it's not about dreams so much, but it's that similar sentiment of kind of giving your life away to something that didn't really matter or that didn't really fulfill you or whatever. And so we were having, again, that sort of kind of conversation. I just like, you know, the fact that resonates so deeply, I just find absolutely fascinating. So, and
there's all this amazing imagery in the song that kind of, you know, lends itself to this looping, almost like this eternity. You've got the sun and the moon, and the rain and fire, and it mentions angels as well. And so it's just really clever, you know, there's this poetry to that final part of the song, you know, that I just think is just amazing.
That's very cool.
Chasing dreams that end in pain. Yeah, it's just beautiful.
So say the name of that. So that's Willy Mason. What's the name of the song?
Carry On.
Carry On. Okay, I'll try. I will post these when I put this out. I'll make sure they're all out. But okay, mate, I love it. So your third and final choice. What have you got for us?
I've gone with Lime Tree by Conor Oberst. Final track from Cassadaga, which is, I think, one of their less popular albums, but it's my favourite album. I just have an attachment to it.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's just really wide in its scope. It's got really like ruckus kind of rock tunes, and then very melancholic.
I remember we were in a conversation once at a gig, and I was saying about how much I loved Conor Oberst, and I would think I was trying to look really cool in front of these people, and I think I started calling it Casablanca. The album. I was like, I love that album, Casablanca, and I'm pretty sure. I don't know if you dragged me away from that conversation. It might have even been Listener. We were talking to them. I just remember I was so desperate to I was trying. You know, one of those moments where you're just trying way too hard, and I completely messed up. It was like a humiliating, humbling moment. Anyway, but That's Diego, not Casablanca, folks.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, it's just a really interesting album. But yeah, I've picked this final song, Lime Tree. So I'll read the lyrics from here. And again, this is a song where you could pick out any particular part and it would be really interesting. But it begins, I'll just start at the beginning and I'll skip to the end. But it begins by saying, I keep floating down the river, but the ocean never comes. I just think it's a really nice way to start it off. Similar to the first lyrics that we talked about, sort of almost hopping over fences, sort of gardens in this dream, and almost never getting anywhere. So yeah, and then towards the end it says, it comes to me in fragments, but even those are split in two. Under the eaves of that old lime tree, I stood examining the fruit. Some were ripe and some were rotten. I felt nauseous with the truth. There will never be a time more opportune, so I just won't be late. The window closes, shock rolls over in a tidal wave, and all the colour drains out of the frame. So pleased with a daydream that now living is no good. I took off my shoes and walked into the woods. I felt lost and found with every step I took. Yeah.
Just bringing it out at the end. Yeah. That ruined me. Man, I've listened to that album. I don't know. It's funny, isn't it? When you say lyrics like that, you kind of they hit you in a different way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I just think it's really that last bit. It does get me every time, and it's a really long song as well. It's like 6 minutes long, Trev style, kind of, one rogue 8-minute song in an EP, that kind of thing,
And everything else is at 2 minutes. Yeah, great, perfect.
Exactly, yeah. But it's just, and it's quite like not dreary, but droning, the song. And even those first lyrics, I keep floating down the river, but the ocean never comes. And it I don't know, it sort of mirrors the end there where he says, I felt lost and found with every step I took. And it's that whole thing of like never arriving. I don't know, it's just, again, it's like really abstract and hard to describe, but it's a feeling that just, I don't know, really resonates with me. But yeah, it's really sad. Yeah.
Totally. It makes me I was going to say, again, well, I mean, there's just something, I just love paradox in songs anyway, just lyrics like lost and found with every step I take. I just love anything that holds two things in tension because, I don't know. But I mean, I guess that resonates probably with my experience of life. Life is way more about holding things in tension than having, anyway, I know we talk about that a lot, but I love that. I love that paradox and something about adventure, feeling lost and found. And mate, it's so good. I love it. I love it. Well, look, we talk to each other a lot, so we don't necessarily have to keep everyone else on this video for another hour, although we probably will go on for that after we stop recording. But mate, just before we finish, what if people want to find your music, anything like that, where can they go? Where can they find stuff that you're up to?
Yeah, if you just search Pyx, which is PYX band, it should all come up. Instagram is the place I'm probably most active, but yeah, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and I'm hoping to do some more releases later this year, maybe a couple of singles, and see where things go from there. But yeah, excited to be writing, releasing, and maybe doing some gigs with yours truly.
Come on.
Exactly, I hope. Yeah.
I was gonna say, as long as you plan your recording schedule around my stuff, so that you can continue to make that good, that would be great. Thanks, man.
You got it.
Good. Okay. Good. Well, Wes, mate, thank you so much for joining us. And
pleasure.
I like this. I like that you went for a theme as well. That I might make that a thing. I might suggest that for future guests as well, if you want to do a theme, to try and narrow it down. But mate, thank you so much. And thanks everyone that's been watching. This is the second episode of My Favorite Lyrics. We are going to try and make this into a podcast as well. I say we, whoever we is, me and a friend who knows about podcasts will try and make this into a podcast as well. So if you do want to, in the future, listen, maybe just to the audio of these, we'll figure that out as well. But great. click subscribe if you like these and you want to know when the next video is coming out. And we'll, see you all soon. Take care. Thanks, Wes.
Bye.